When I've completed a drawing, I often like to use that drawing in other artworks, and it's easy to do it by using a medium transfer. This is a normal laminate block, but you can have any wooden block, and this is covered with finishing plaster. It's the type of stuff that people use to patch holes in their walls, but you can actually have a block that's just covered in gesso or even acrylic paint, so it will work on any of these surfaces. So what you do is you photostat your original drawing, and then what I do is I cut out the drawing because I don't want a lot of paper when I do the transfer. So I cut it out fairly close to the image. And then what I do is I put medium. So this is just an acrylic medium. You can use either gloss or a matte medium. It doesn't have to be an expensive medium. You can buy medium from a hardware store as long as it's acrylic medium. This can be applied with a brush. So you can dip your brush into the medium and you can paint it onto your image. I don't like getting my brushes full of medium, so what I do is I just put it into the cap and then I rub it onto the image. So I just put a layer of medium on this image. I'm just going to put a piece of paper underneath so I don't get it on this block. So I just put a layer of medium onto this image, onto the front of the image, and I just make sure it's covered quite well. And then what I do is I just take that image and I adhere it to the surface and just make sure that there's no little bubbles. In fact, I think what I might do is just put more medium on this surface. I just really want this little sparrow to adhere to the surface. So I'm sticking it down and making sure that there's no bubbles. And then I let that dry overnight. This piece of paper that I stuck down with a medium onto this block has completely dried, and I'm going to try and remove the paper so that it just leaves the ink behind on the block. And just need some water and a sponge. So I'm just dipping into the water, and I'm going to wet the back of this paper quite thoroughly. And then what you do is you just take your finger or your thumb and you gently rub the paper away. And just be careful because you can be over enthusiastic with this step and you can end up rubbing your image away. So you need to do it quite gently. And then all the white paper should be removed from the surface, and then only your drawing or your ink photostat remains. And just make sure that your paper's damp. And don't rush this step because it's quite easy to get over enthusiastic and rub wildly away, and then you lose your drawing. So very gently. And then the point is to remove as much paper as possible so that it's just the medium and the ink that remains. Oops, a little bit over enthusiastic there. I think I might have actually destroyed some of that sparrow's eye, so I'm just going to dampen it again. Yeah, I did end up removing some of it. So if you're a little bit more careful than what I was there, you should get a good transfer of your image. I don't mind the bits coming away because it sort of adds almost like a weathered, oops, broken up transfer of this image. And you're going to work over this. You're going to paint into it or draw into it and re-establish the little bird. But what it's done is it's saved you a lot of time because you don't have to draw every single line. Just going to dip my sponge into water. You can end up getting quite sore fingers if you do this on a big piece, but it's ideal for little pieces because you don't really have to rub that much. You just rub until all the paper comes off. I can still see little bits of paper here on this wing, but I'm just worried that I'm rubbing too much off and I'm going to lose a lot of the ink. It looks like I'm losing a bit on that head. So you just wipe all the little bits off with your sponge and then let your piece dry. You'll find that when your little image has dried, it does fade. And an easy solution is to use your medium, your acrylic medium. And again, I'm just going to pour a little bit into the cap. And I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to rub it over the little bird. And then this should maintain the darkness. It should keep the darkness of that original drawing or photostat or print